nti mulekali registering ekibiina tunakitwala edda musayininga endagaano and everything endagaano ngeriko $5 million. Who does that? Teri asobola kikola ekyo. Because what they would have done is bandi badde bamukwatira wali. If Kibalama was working with these people, bandi badde bamukwatira wali. Because Kibalama yeyingira ddiru ng'akimanyi nti yes, okay, njagala ncho n'ebigambo walabira ddala ng'ayogera nga is legit. So what this means is this, nti babadde bamuperereza, babadde bamukowasinga, babadde bamugulirira, and maybe he reached a breaking point. Naga nti ekyokukola sikiina, kankole abasajja kye baagala. And maybe in return for something. Maybe that's what happened. Now, why now? Lwaki kati? Because there are so many questions we need to ask about this entire debacle. Evaddewo olunaku olwaleero. Lwaki bareleasinze video eno ku mukutu ogumu gwe tumanyi ogusambuza propaganda wa Museveni? Nga the last person to use that okubeera ku propaganda oyo yafulumya ka video ku Facebook n'agamba nti banaye mu ntaasa abasajja bakaka banyoonya nziri ku ddeno kalangala. Omusajja y'omu ye yagamba nti Bobi Wine yatta abantu e Busaabala. Omukutu gwe gumu gwe gugenda kufulumya amawulire. Actually, now that is real propaganda. Like, that is real propaganda. Gwe mukutu gwe gumu gwe gugenda kugamba nti no gwe gwina ba criminals nti bano we bali bakuba obutayimba bano we batakirumira. But these criminals are not even brought in the courts of law on that same platform. Why didn't Kibalama make a press conference ng'abalala bonna babadde bagamba nti tetukolagana na people power ne bayita bannamawulire ne bakola press conference maybe ku Hotel Triangle? Where did Kibalama get the money okukola video eri well edited, eri well scripted, and the video is also well shot because you see the lighting na buli kimu? This was a well planned and executed video, eyabadde well scripted bulungi nnyo. Why? These are questions we need to ask. And of course, the question of affidavits. But the biggest question should be, lwaki akola press conference in fact yagireliizinze kiro saawa but no budde bwe bagikoledde mu press conference bagikola budde bwa kiro saawa 8 we bagikolera. Why would you do a press conference at night? Obanga ddala oyagala kulaga abantu nti you are legit, nti era people power yava ku ndagaano twamenye endagaano. Lwaki okola press conference at night? So the thing is this, nti bino byonna abasajja bano babikola. Lwaki babikola? Mbadde ndaba frontline olwaleero nga all these people are saying nti omusajja tebamukolerako background check, omusajja tebamunyonyerezaako, ekibiina lwaki bakikwata biki, kugamba nga balinga abagamba nti yes, Museveni wa kabi nnyo, mu aba people power muli babi nnyo okuba nti nomwatwala ekibiina ekya N.U.P oba mwagenda ne mubeera mpulidde Salaamu Musumba ng'ayogera ebintu awo naye nga naye bannaye opposition wallahi opposition ya Uganda these traditional people are simayina kumanya Salaamu Musumba oba kiki oba I don't know, I don't think she represents FDC. The same thing, the problem with Norbert Mao, he represents NDP. Era toyina ngeri gy'oddamu kigambo Mao kyaba ayogedde bw'obanga gw'oli mwogezi. Because he has a real beef against N.U.P and against people power. Which is fine. But the way they portrayed their arguments was that okay, the presence of soldiers, nebatalaga nti no, they do not show the bigger picture of a state. It is a democratic state. Okubanga esobola okukozesa tricks ezo. Nekozesa because the work of ISO si kubega ku bannansi oba si kweyingiza mu byabufuzi kutandika playing political games. Because if the work of the Internal Security Organization is to portray propaganda against its own citizens, then the entire establishment of ISO should be scrapped. Teina kubeerawo. Simple as that. Because it is a station by Naka Patriotic Pulse TV that is there to move propaganda of the state. Nga bamukozesa propaganda eri banna Uganda. Okubabuzaabuza, ku-intimidating abantu, okukozesa coercion. They do not allow any sort of political divergent views in politics. Tebakkiriza. Now some of the people ababadde ku pano bagamba, yeah, we wish it was us. Of course, opportunity eno. Some of them just wish it was them. Nga be baakutte. Now, nze ngamba bwenti nti Kibalama did his job. He did his job. Yakwata ekibiina n'asayininga buli kimu ng'ategeera maybe bamukubye baasa etewalika or something of that sort, because nze mbadde nina statement Joel agambe nti the gentleman was under duress, oba the gentleman yabadde ku gunpoint na biki. But Joel confirms that they dug up a few information, bagenza okunyonyereza ne balaba nga waliwo ebitagatta wakati wa ISO n'omukulu Kibalama, which is unfortunate because recently Kibalama yali avuddeyo n'agamba nti government yali emunyonya nti baali baagala moloka zimugoberera biki and all this kind of thing. So he didn't know the magnitude. Oba yayita manyi masanyalaze ki Bobi Wine gayina, oba tamanyi amasanyalaze ga people power na kintu kyayingiridde, how big it is. Kati ye agenda n'akireta with a small mentality. In the end agenza okulaba the thing is too big, and maybe it has been so big for him to handle. Because you cannot come out and claim nti mazima ddala Bobi Wine akusuubiza $5 million. That is 18 billion Ugandan shillings. To put that into context, sente z'abasomesa ze baalidde abasomesa ba Uganda bonna, it is 11 billion. So that is just 8 billion more with a B. So you can't say that Bobi Wine yakusuubiza 8 million. And the next time when you're planning something, when wamukola ekintu, temukola kintu nga kirimu gundi. You do something that is believable. Why would you use Pulse of all stations on Facebook, Patriotic Pulse TV, Racho Konsa Patriotic Pulse TV? Fena tujimanyi it is omukutu ogwa propaganda. We all know that. Why would you use Patriotic Pulse TV? It is a station that is not credible. Taina credibility, itocharinga abantu, bakwata abantu ne bakuba emiggo olumala ne babateeka ku kamera ne baboogeza. For Kibalama, I'm not sure nti oba baamwogeza oba nedda. But from the look of things kiragira ddala nti nno waliwo obuzibu obw'okuba nti mukadde waffe Kibalama ye ekintu alabika yakiridde, alabika yalidde something yawo kye tutategeera. Naye with evidence, as evidence comes out, tujja kulaba oba ddala omukulu. Because some people said Museveni yamuwadde oba billion meka. No. Museveni doesn't give out that amount of money. No. Tekiriyo. Kababulire. Museveni, omuntu yekka who is not worth, but whom Museveni can buy more than $1 billion. I think ayinza kubanga maybe nesenyonyi nedda. Maybe babesije abo webatyo. But a person to be worth $1 billion in Museveni's government? It might be maybe Bobi Wine. But I'm not saying Bobi Wine is worth $1 billion Ugandan shillings. The context I'm making is Museveni cannot buy someone $1 billion shillings. It cannot happen. For good measure, nabayo. Teachers, babade bagenda about 11 billion Ugandan shillings. Wobangwa ddala obala ebyobufuzi. Nga esente bakanyuga weba 11 billion. Lwaki omuntu tajja mu papa n'ayitayo naga kabampeyo nange 10 billion. Tazirina ezo. Now this is what he does. He cannot give you 10 billion, no? But kino kyakola, he will place you somewhere. Kyekigenda okufuuka ku Kibalama, bayinza omuwa ekifo, bayinza omuwa ministry, bayinza omuwa department oba organi N.U.P. Namuteeka oba mu KCC oba namuteeka mu ministry kati ne bamuweerayo omusaala obanga gwa 1.2 million per month oba namufuula RDC, things like that. That's what Museveni trades. But Museveni to get hard cash, no, it can't happen. That's not true. That's not true. Because ababadde mu government ya Museveni, abavudde mu opposition ne bayingira government ya Museveni. How have they really changed, these people? They haven't changed. Tebakyukanga mu mbeera, balaba bakyali basiiwuufu, they are not so happy, tebanyirira, and so on and so forth. Because the moment you join NRM, no joining a party yawe, abakulina mu ttaano, oba tokyalina leverage. Now, people who have gotten smarter with Museveni, this is what they do. They stay in the opposition, shout. Kati mukuleka nnyo, nga Museveni alina kyayagala oyisaawo, he comes, and he knows they cannot change, they cannot come into the NRM, nga wawayo zaabawa. Kati wabawayo zaabawa, then they shut up. Nga basirika ekintu nga bakireka. Kati nga balinda ekiddako. Nga baddamu, nga babula. Because the moment you cross that line, that is the end. Tubajja kuddamu kuwulira. The moment you cross that line, oba tokyaddamu kuwulira, you are to eat Museveni's money, ng'oyagala kuzirya, toyingira opposition, toyingira NRM. That is the simplest way. But my point today is this. Politics is not easy. And fighting for a nation is not easy. And creating revolutions is not easy. This is what we are up against. A dictator who has been in power for 35 years. Aine mundu, aina budget, ya what? Is it 35 million US dollars? Almost what? 4 trillion or I don't know, 45 trillion is our Uganda budget. He has all that budget. He has all that control. He can sit down. Alinga Caligula is like an African Caligula. Nti ye asobola deciding whom to kill and whom not to kill. This one can die. This one can live. That's the power he has. That is the power of a dictator. He can decide. And this has happened. We know this. He has the power to manipulate. He has the power to control everything, like, so many things in the country. Simwangu, he's everywhere. From Arua to Kasese. From Kasese to Sese Islands, Kalangala, everywhere. A very powerful man. Very powerful. So, Amin is told that my point is not to kubabulira nti Museveni w'amaanyi nnyo. But the reason as why I'm telling you these things is for you to understand the people who raise up and stand against such a gentleman. These are heroic. Because if you come out today and you stand against that, you deserve a medal. It is not easy. So for anyone who comes out, nasigala true to their word, look here, I'm going to stand up against a dictator, 35 years in power, 76 years of age. Newankubadde ine mundu, newankubadde ine sente, newankubadde controlling, he decides who lives, who dies. Even if he has all that power, I will stand up against him. It is not an easy job. It is not easy. So for you can sit back, because we can just say, you know what, man, a guy jakunzitira family, jakunzitira abana, kangende mu joining. That is the simplest of tasks. In a struggle, that is the simplest. But these things we know they are coming. Betrayal, death, and everything is going to come. And we haven't even seen the worst of it. Because for the case that has happened today of Kibalama's case, we have seen worse. Omusajja bamutaddeko emisango gy'okuba nti teyasoma. Omusajja bamutaddeko emisango gy'okuba nti simanyi yatta abantu ebusaabala. All these cases, how come they do not come to the courts of law? If at all Museveni did not want Bobi Wine to be on the ballot, why does he go through all these channels? Ballot. For me, these are the questions I ask myself. Okay, fine. Fine, that's right, that's true. Then let him not put him on the ballot. Simple as that. Why should we go through all this? The reason as to why we are going through all this is to kill the morale of the people. Is to kill the morale of the people who have stood with vigor, who have stood without fear against this dictatorship, who have sacrificed their time, money, and resources. It is to kill the morale. That's all. The issue is not to kulemesa Bobi Wine to be on the ballot. No, the issue is actually to have Bobi Wine on the ballot, but to kill his votes and make sure that his people he mobilized to come and vote for him come 2021, they do not turn up. That's a simple thing. That's why they say, oh, Teasoma, striking doubt in people's heads. Because the biggest battle now we have to fight is the battle of the mind. It's the battle of our understanding. When you see an issue, a big problem, sit down, think about it in 2 or 3 ways, in all different angles. Look at it. Then when you come at a decision, call a decision here. Otherwise, you're going to be caught off guard. So the person we are standing up against, you should know he's not an easy person. He's strong, no doubt. Very strong. I cannot stand here and go, Museveni is not strong. You cannot kufuga and say for 35 years. Everything happens. Nga people bacha kugumikiriza. Olibye byako chusiza constitution. Emisango jo yagala gikolebweko je gikolebwako ekitakolebwako tegikolebwako. You have gotten all your family obatadde bugundi mu government. Or creating a private army, the SFC. Against the national army. Constitution yakuwa abakuumi, abapolisi n'abamaje. Tebateka wombundo special forces command yejo kumaga president is on there in the constitution. Olumbye Bobi Wine ku kyemyaka n'omulumba ku kyokusoma, but in the return ate wagenda okulaba nti no weerumye. Because the same things that you are using to attack the gentleman are the same things that you yourself tomirina. You see, the biggest thing in the dictatorship was the Chinsa Yusachechino. Mweche mutalaba. Museveni is misinformed. He actually doesn't know what is going on. What is Museveni's motive in doing these things? What is the state's motive? Now, there's a possibility abakole ebintu bino. Because kakati oma byakola. Okwatibwa kwa Kibalama ne Kibalama byakola ojja kulaba nti ekyo kyabadde kiyinza kuyitira wa Balamu for some reason, I don't know why. Kyabadde kiyinza kuyitira wa Balamu. But on the other hand, Balamu naye alina category ye y'abantu bakwata. So you see that these are all the same people working for the same gentleman. Nayenga, they are actually quite different players. Now, the thing is this. The gentleman is misinformed. That is why you see Ntenako are very active on social media, because he's trying to get in touch directly now and to Facebook to see what the people are saying. Now, let me give you an example. Do you think the president will come out ntowa iso oba omuntu akuyira intelligence oba police asobola okuzukukolwa leero n'agenda n'agamba Museveni nti muzeyi tokyalina buwagizi abantu tebakyakwagala ng'oliwa iso osobola okugenda n'okyogera? tosobola. He's a 76-year-old man. I know Tondo. Oina musu takumuwana. Tia Museveni wa muzeyi wabula oli wakabya olingo emyaka 3. Pressure up zokuba. Pressure up zokuba kati wetagayo haki ento ya myaka 18. Ngozo waisa so ogenda namuga ndi no muzeyi ojja kufuna heart attack lekera okola pressure up. Do you think people around him can tell him such news? No. He surrounds himself with yes men that will tell him what he wants to hear. Now, in dictatorship, that happens because it happens, number one, out of fear. Into ono mugamba mazima, you might end up in the ground. Ono mugamba mazima, you might lose your position. Chitegeza ntitojja omuli mugoba doko ojja kuba togufuna. Kati on top of that, tulina abantu take our measures to control information, to control dissent, no controlling discussions ku social media, oba ku social media, oba ku mawulire TV, ebimenza twala tugende. Now, buli wo blocking a conversation zezo, tomanya kiki bantu kye bafiringa. Kati buli wo tamanya bantu kiki kye bafiringa. What happens is inti gojja kukola byokola ngolowooza abantu bye baagala. Natenga byokola, it is just the entire opposite, that what you're doing is actually making you unpopular. Chemubabula banti avayo olwalero n'abagamba nti gundi yesse oba gundi mukulembeze ekyavaayo. N'agamba nti zaake bamukubye emiggo naye olwamaze omukuba emiggo n'adduka ku kitanda n'agenda. They are actually making the president himself to look stupid. Nti zaake bamukubye emiggo n'ava ku kitanda n'atambula n'agenda. That is the reason as to why they are putting up Kakati. Because now what happens with that is the gentleman becomes misinformed. Kati wa becoming misinformed. Now blocking a channels is what happens is people go underground. Abantu buli we bagenda underground. That is the worst moment for any dictator. Munsi yonna. Because people start organizing ngabi batesa obanga ebibaluma tebakyabiteeka mu lujjudde babiteeseza eno wansi kigenda okubayo ekyo okubwatuka boom. You know how revolutions happen? That's how they happen. Mubaraka we batyo bamutwala, owe Morocco naye ne bamutwala, Algeria n'agenda, Sudan n'agenda, like that. Bwe kitandika mpola mpola goziba internet oziba kino osiba kiri naye tomanyi, because what happens once ate kiba kirala nnyo. Buli akuwaganya n'ogula ono n'ogula oli n'ogula ono n'ogula oli, toyagala kuwuliriza nsonga z'abantu wabula kyoyagala nti social media kacheze tutekewo Social Media Misuse Act. Buli akozesa obuyi omukutu akwatibwe asibibwe nti ekyo kiganye tubateekeko omusolo social media tax. Kino si kiganye tuba registering. Now I see some people are falling for registration. Mubagenda ku registering mikutu gyabwe. Come on guys. Are we that naive? Nti ogenda kwata sente emitwalo 10 bajikwa mbokwate emitwalo 10 ogende otekeyo muba registering ekyoto. Muba registering whatever media joina. These people are stupid. I'm sorry to say, but banabantu, whatever they are doing, only God knows. Because ebintu ebimu tula wabali what no tunula no yagala na kuseka busesi, you just don't know what these people are actually doing or planning at all. Because those are kuvayo no ganti buli Facebook page eje registering, YouTube channels zona zi registering. For heaven's sake, there are 31 million YouTube channels in the world. Ono registering a maker. No gama antikali websites is registering CNN, Daily Mail, The Sun, bichi. Are you going to block those gundi media houses? Lwachinzo yagalanza ina omukuto ogwange kale gwempandikira ko lwacho yagala registering. What if I'm registered somewhere else? Kakati abamu babalimbi babagambye nedda twagala basengeka mawulire. Boy, this is how it starts. Bajja kugamba nti baagala basengeka mawulire. Waliwo mu blogger gwe nalabya yagenze na registering omukutu gwe. Whatever, waliwo omukutu ogwo gwe babba ogwa Ghetto TV nti bagenze bali ku registering mu gusenka mawulire. Yabadde website. Yabadde Facebook page. What does that tell you? kati kino kigenda kujja oba okola entertainment oba okola sports, anything. That is what they want. The only way to fight back is to reject. Reject, reject, reject. Simple. Temubiri registeringayo. Nkati baba tereddewo akalala akalipo. Ne bagamba nti bagenda kubawa content fund. These are means to bribe people. Look here, if you take my money, if you take my bribe, n'otwala content fund, sente zange zentaddewo, mbozeewo zogenda okole content. Okay, if I make content yali critical against you, how will that work out? Mulira. Ng'otute content fund, nenzija nenkola content, oba nenzija nenkola nempandika blog, oba nempandika article, ngeri against UCC. What will UCC do? They will just pull the fund. Take the license away. When they take the license away, kitegeeza tukyasobola kukozesa Facebook, tukyasobola kukozesa Twitter, or YouTube, or owning a website. You can't do that. That means they can throw you in court. Because they have crafted these things slowly, slowly. Computer Misuse Act, yeyasooka. I think yeyasooka. Then ne batuleetera social media tax. Kakati batuleetedde simanyi registration, licensing and registration. Those three things. I'll expound on those ones more some other time. But anyway, just for good measure, kambabulire kino. Waliwo article eyafuluma mu March omwezi ogwokuna 2020. Yawandiikibwa omukola amanyikiddwa nga bamuyita Kaheru. Basinga ku mumanyi. Mbadde ndaba frontline leero ne baga odongo tonaga nti Bobi Wine eggulu taliyo pece, taliyo bla 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 bla. Ne mwenda n'agamba simanyi Museveni ya winninga with the percentage n'azogerawo. Kakati guy yawandika article n'agamba nti 2021 election and the game changer districts. Yagamba nti Kampala and Wakiso are the most significant decision makers. Kampala with about 1.28 million voters is followed by Wakiso with a voting population of 1,165,000 Ugandans. So two districts, Kampala and Wakiso, zina over I think 3 million voters. Right? Roughly 3 million voters, Kampala and Wakiso. Guy Yagamba, if you intend to be a national political contender in the forthcoming election, and you are looking to really make a difference, then you have to talk to communities that will numerically influence the vote. Only 16 of the 135 districts, listen carefully, only 16 out of the 135 districts have immense power in their numbers to determine the political trajectory of Uganda at the 2021 polls. All factors remaining constant, of course. Electoral statistics show that 16 districts hold 35% of the country's entire voting population. They could swing the national election in whichever direction they choose, if they voted homogeneously, of course. Now, Kampala and Wakiso are the most significant decision makers. Kampala with about 1.28 million voters is followed by Wakiso with 1,160,000 voters. Both districts are in the central region, Uganda, and account for the biggest voting bloc countrywide. Of course, never mind. The voters in these areas may not be homogeneous. Statistically speaking, and putting in mind other influencing factors, a presidential candidate would need to successfully convince the electorate in the central region if they are to count their chances at the presidency. Other districts with high voting populations include Kasese 372,000, 100,000 voters, Mukono 354,047 voters, Arua 328,415 voters, Jinja 274,772 voters, Tororo 222 voters, Ntungamo 253 voters, Mbari 276,000 voters, Luwero 256,454 voters, Buyikwe 214 voters, Kamuli 233,930 voters, Mayuge 299,552 voters, Isingiro 221 voters, 811 voters, Lira 222 voters, and Chenjojo 207,370,000. A quick look at these figures easily paints a picture of how numbers will apply in the forthcoming general election. Any serious political contenders should now be adding and subtracting and balancing the numbers so they can benefit from them in 2021 metrics. But this is not to say politicians should only concentrate on winning the numbers over influencing the quality in political participation. The chronicle of the voter numbers is only half the story, though. Areas rich in voter figures have also become playgrounds for the manner of the electoral manipulation. Every politician wants to partake to these fertile hunting grounds. Past experience shows that violence during elections freeloads on areas with significant voting populations. The Central Region, for instance, was the theater of the 2001-6 electoral violence. The post-2011 elections walk-to-work protests happened mainly in Uganda region. Following the last general elections, there has been a pattern of election-related violence that trails densely in populated areas. For instance, in Kasese, experienced violence in the immediate post-2016 general election. Arua district in West Nile was another hotbed for violent scenes during the 2018 parliamentary by-election. Tension lasted with barbs of volatility characterized by the 2018 Luhama parliamentary by-election in Ntungamo district. On the other hand, electoral exercises in districts such as Moroto, which have smaller voter populations, have relatively been peaceful. How the 2021 election plays out will largely depend on the way the 16 voter-rich districts engage with the election. Now, in fact, it is these areas, he goes on to say, that could easily blaze a trail in manipulative practices such as voter bribery, tension, violence, vote rigging, unwarranted security interference in the elections, or even voter suppression. It is these same areas that could set up the tempo for better political electoral practices if they are collectively decided to. It is these districts that should ideally determine who is elected president of Uganda come 2021. Without doubt, these are the areas to keep on your watch list. Now, okay, this was written by Simon Kaheru, knows our citizens' election for electoral democracy. Sedu. Okay, now he makes Gaya Kola analysis enungi about the numbers. Agamanti, there are 16 districts in Uganda. District season is determining akalulu on where the election goes. When you get chigamba abantu chibagamba, wano Bobi Wine taliwo, wano taliwo, wali taliwo, wano taliwo. They say these things without putting in regard the number of population, about the population of people living in those districts who are voters. Abantu abalonda bali mu district sezo. So he gives an example of districts like in Ntungamo. Moroto. I will have to look onto the EC data as actually I break down district by district. In the districts, it doesn't mean that these balloons don't matter. Nedda. It means that abalonzi bano oyina okubateekako essira naye oyina ate woyina okusinga okuteeka essira awali obululu. Fena tukimanyi bulungi Kampala ne Wakiso ze district ezisinga abalonzi. Kampala erina abalonzi miliyoni emu, erina abalonzi miliyoni emu mu emitwalo 2, Wakiso erina abalonzi miliyoni emu mu emitwalo 16. Teri district endala eweza miliyoni y'abantu nga balonzi teriyo. Kampala ne Wakiso, they are the biggest voting districts. Kakati of course teri districts izo zombi teziyinza kuvotinga nti nno zonna bonna abalonzi miliyoni emu yonna yonna elonze Bobi Wine oba miliyoni emu yonna yonna elonze Museveni. Districts ziri 16 ezitamininga akalulu mu Uganda. Now tukimanyi nti waliwo n'abantu abamu abatalonda. Ekyo Bobi Wine kyabadde asalidde amagezi nti get the people to go to the polls to vote. Kakati abantu baade baba hypinze babatadde mu mood ey'okugenda okukola ki okulonda. So he makes an analysis nagati mu districts zine 16 mwe muri district ezebbiri ezisooka Kampala ne Wakiso naye ne kubaako ne districts zino Wamanga nazo zirina abantu bangi kwe kuli Kasese erina abalonzi emitwalo 37, Mukono erina abalonzi emitwalo 35, Arua erina abalonzi emitwalo 32, Jinja erina emitwalo 27, Tororo erina emitwalo 26, Ntungamo erina emitwalo 26, Mbale erina emitwalo 25, Luwero erina emitwalo 25, Buyikwe erina emitwalo 23, Kamuli emitwalo 23, Mayuge emitwalo 22, Isingire emitwalo 22, Lira emitwalo 21. Chenjojo emitwalo 2. Mumanyi lwaki Bobi Wine baadde bamugobayo ennyo mu Eastern Uganda by the way. Ene Kamuli, Buyikwe, Mbale, Jinja. Do you know why? I think that makes sense now. Museveni doesn't want him to become popular in these regions because he knows that is where the vote is. Katijukira abantu bana abasinga abamu East bavu. These people are poor. Ye wali envunza, ye wali everything. Trust me. They just need a small awakening. Kantu katini nnyo kubajjukiza nimanaye mugende mulonde. Now they don't want that. That is why very, very, very brutal if he goes to Eastern Uganda. Because there are over, I think 4 districts there. Over 5 districts, 5 or 6 districts. Ngazina abalonzi abakunikiriza mu mitwalo 3. 300,000 voters. But what Museveni has to do is to make sure those people don't go to the polls. Because abalonzi ba Museveni bo bakozi ba sente. Omuntu alonda Museveni yaba alonze agenze kumulonda lwaki Africa. Aba agenze kumulonda lwa sente mostly. So kakati oli wavayo nagamba nti bannange wano Bobi Wine taliwo wano N.U.P. Of course I understand there are some places N.U.P. negundi wetajja kujja nchikoleka analysis kulubaawo. There are some places where tutali. That is true. Nenga amanyi gawanidadde mu kifo ekyo ne wowoga ataddeyo kale ku last minute kiba kijja kukolera ate nga amanyi goba otadde mu kifo ekyo district kuba kati I think these things we should know. Kuba kati ebifo ng'ebyo n'omanya nti Moroto wali abalonzi 3,000. Kakati abalonzi 3,000 bonna ne of course bonna tebajja kulonda. Kuyinza okubaako abalonzi nga 2 abalonze oba abalonzi nga 1,000. Kati kitegeeza Museveni ne wanatopingawo buli obululu 2,000. You can make it up. Kamuli oba Buyikwe n'obudabo linga obwo obululu because bwe baba 3,000 kitegeeza obululu 3,000 togenda kubusussa. Moroto togenda kusussa bululu 1,000. Naye ate nga wonogenda n'oteeka amaanyi of course abantu be Moroto ino bafaako. At least yobayitamu kono bagaba na vote Bobi Wine. Naye ate to some extent oyina okwongeza amaanyi Wakiso abantu bagende balonde obululu bwe wandiruzinze Moroto obongeremu Wakiso. Obongeremu Wakiso. Obe Kamuli, obe Chenjojo, and these other places. Buyikwe, Mbale, Luwero, Chiraba. So, I'll look for these other districts. Nabadde ngezaako okunyonya ku website ya EC ndabe how other districts measure up, because twina districts kati nyingi. Newe njogerera kati bayinza okuba wataddeyo empya 135 districts. Naye ku districts 135 districts 16 zokka ze zirina abalonzi abasukka mu mitwalo abiri. Endala tezisukkawo. Kakati omusajja ono era mu analysis ye n'akulaga nti districts zino ezirina abantu abangi every after an elections zitera okubaawo n'obutabanguko. For example, mu mwezi gwa 2016 Kasese bayinayo ekitta bantu ekyaliwo after 2016 nga watulira Kasese ina abalonzi abasukka mitwalo 3 n'otunuulira 2001 to 2006 walk to work protests zali mu Buganda region. Kasese 2016 ojja kulaba nti mu Arua oba mu West Nile district era nayo waliyo abalonzi almost mitwalo 3 era nayo yalina violence yaliwo oluvannyuma lw'akalulu kakasiyano waduri by election 2018 kiwulira. Luhama nayo waliyo violence nyingi. Luhama parliamentary by election in Ntunga district namwo mwalimu violence. In fact nebuyikwe ewasmani basalira waliwo omuntu eyattibwa. Nti ojja genda okusanga nti districts zino naddala 16 zino zirina abantu abangi ziba ne si violence wabula ziba ne protests zino ez'abantu okwekalakaasa every after an election. So kyenva mulaba nga nena kyemayira naye tatudde ayina byazannya ayina byabala naye nga nekyagulanyi naye tatudde naye kyabala akimanyi akitegeera. Because I had not followed these numbers to see what the different voters in different districts, but when I came across this, I think it was quite interesting. The major purpose now is to get people out there to go and vote. I think a.ka Kibalama, it will also come to pass, because look here, as I always tell people, Museveni wabanga tayagala Bobi Wine ku ballot. He can do that. So look here, kumacha nagamba tajjajiberako. Right? Naye olina akubuuza at what cost? That's the biggest question. At what cost? Because those are two completely different things. Oyinza ogamba nti nedda abo balina Uganda bonna wemba njagala nsobola obbatta. Okay, kale osobola obbatta fine. Naye bwe banakukkiriza okubeerawo ng'omaze okutta abantu baabwe era gwe banaatuusa okuba ng'ottibwa, how will that be? Waliwo abantu be bapangisa ennaku zino abakaaba ku mikolo gy'okukaaba ne Bungereza wano we bali baba basasula £35 okukaabira abafu. Omufojja nga tomumanyi naye bakubriefinga nti abadde bwati ne bwati najja n'omukaabira okukaabira abafu. Ne gundi bakikola nnyo North Korea. Naye nze bw'obanga ekyo kyogenda okutuusa ku bannansi, nze abakaabira omukulembeze sijja kubaamu. Mujja kugenda mugula abo abakaabira abantu bajja mukaabira, but me siyinza kubeera mu abo abakaabira Museveni ku bintu byakola. Seriously. So kankume wano nakwataganya. Anyway, nja following nsonga ya Kibalama, just nyagadde ku replyinga oba kwogerako ku bibadde ku frontline katono. Because olabira ddala opposition but like the other guys baagalira ddala N.U.P failing, baagala Bobi Wine failing, baagala people power failing. I don't know why. Why are these people so bad? Like simanyi lwaki like n'obusungu buno ku people power ne N.U.P ne Bobi Wine. I don't know why. Simanyi. That is what people are again. Bobi Wine Chovola, it is not easy. Omuntu wavaayo n'ayimirira mu N.U.P. nze abantu abo abavaayo abakazi bonna abakola sign language bani balebisi basenyonyi all those people abali ku secretariat yabo bonna everyone buli avaayo n'ayimirira against this kind of intimidation, okuvoola, okuvuma, okuwemula, all this. If people come out and stand up against that, Joran's man, Bobi Wine mujira again kofira, if it was Singaya Lindsay within these 2 years, you could break down. Because one thing after the other, musajja watu yakava ku byokusoma, kakati bamuzizza ku kino. Kati bataddewo kino. Mbona agenda kujja mu kooti, ndabyawo nga mawo babyogera n'odongo tonenseka n'okuseka. Nga babo balinga abagamba ati owedde gwe kati Museveni akolina. Owedde gwe twakugoninga twakugamba owedde kakati wagenda n'abasajja babavaawa nga balinga kwegamba batwalira ddala Bobi Wine okubanga amacha talina kyamanyi. That is what the gentleman Jangulanyi is against. Kakati ffe abamu kufe that resilience okulemerako okwo okufighta okwo, it is what attracts us to Bobi Wine. Because these people want to make him feel nti ali yekka, nti he has no support, there is no one else left, because that's what the dictator does. Nti Museveni yaba ayagala akujja kwawule ku bantu, titiri muntu akwagala, abantu tebakuwagira, teri muntu akuwagira, no one, toli muntu ajja nakukabira ngo you need to kutuza. That's what he wants. But whenever you people come out, nemugenda wali ku ndaba NTV akawungezi, ogenda okulaba abaana baposting ebifaananyi, people power, N.U.P. Ku NTV akawungezi, everyone is watching NTV akawungezi. Ate abasinga there is a possibility abasinga bagirabira online. Abaana ne baposting ebifaananyi by'aba candidates b'N.U.P. ne babipostinga ku YouTube, ku Facebook, ngeno no live egenda maaso. Wogenda mu comments za Museveni, post zateeka oyinza ogamba ba comments za Museveni za NRM, kangene nsome mu comments za NRM. Osanga kuli N.U.P. n'osanga ebifaananyi bya N.U.P. n'osanga buli kimu N.U.P. n'ogamba naye what is this? That is it. Ekyo muzeyi tayagala kiraba, Museveni tayagala kiraba ekyo. Because he knows that people are with Kyagulanyi. He doesn't want that. Kakati ffe tulina okukola is to show support to everyone who are. Buli agenda, wasalam. Thank you very much for your contribution. Bye bye. Buli asigadde tulina kwongera kubagumya. That guys, look here. It is not easy to stand up against a dictator. There were people like Hitler. But just imagine people who stood up against Hitler in those days. Imagine those Jews who stood up. Nebagati, we shall not kill these people. We shall not put these people in the gas chambers. Hitler was very bad. To the extent that nti yakwatanga abantu n'abateeka mu incinerators ng'omuli balamu. Abalema biki, they would just put you. Ne babasuula mu gas chamber, ne babookya oba ne babakumako omuliro. That's Hitler for you. Now, if someone wakes up today and he stands up against that, nagamba nti nze nedda, I will not kwokya bantu. There is a time, by the way, mwabatamanyiko Hitler, let me give you a history lesson. This is what happened. They were killing people so much. He killed 16 million Jews. I mean, was it 6 million Jews? Abasajja ba Hitler ba Gestapo, ezo secret police Gestapo, bali bagita secret police nga bayita Gestapos. Then ne bayina ezo concentration camps in Auschwitz, ngayo bakyogeramu Auschwitz. Kati nga bakwata abantu ne babatwala ne babasimisa mass graves. Kati nga batuuka wali ne babakuba amasasi ne bafa. Now this happened. The German soldiers killed so many people to the extent that ntibali like bagwe darunga ne bakyasobola kutta abantu. Like they became batuka ekisera nga they can no longer kill people using the gun, because the gun would shoot one bullet pa. Just imagine omulimu gokera kumacha kuba abantu sasi kumutta pa. They could no longer kill. So kakami watu kakusise ekyo nga tebakyasobola kutta ne bagamba, you know what, let us invent gas chambers, let us invent zino incinerators tubasindikemu tugende nga tubatta. That is what these people stood up against. Ne bagamba this world tetusobola kubeera n'abantu nga Hitler n'abamwefaananyiriza embeera ze. Tetusobola kubeera n'abadictator. No more dictators in this world. We cannot live with people like this. But that's not the moral of the story. The story is the people who come up and stand against these people. Because these people are so brutal. The people who come up, those people, props for them. Omuntu avaayo n'ayimirira asinga abamwenda 100 abaasoma ebitabo, asinga bamawo 100 aboogera enzungu ne baziwunzika, because bo balinga abatalaba kizibu kya nsi eno. Tebakiraba. So whoever is out there doing the job of standing up against Museveni and his cronies, man, thank you very much. You guys do a good job. And for that reason, bye bye. Have a good night.